Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
National Assembly passes 2.17 trillion naira 2023 supplementary appropriation bill. President Tinubu presents APC flags to Governor Hope Uzodinma, Bayelsa State President and Usman Ododo. Governor Adeleke commends EFCC's positive response to the arrest of some OAU students. On the foreign scene, Israeli Prime Minister calls on Palestinian civilians to leave north of Gaza during meeting with troops. Good evening, this is News at 7 on Western Spring Television. My name is OPEYEMI ONI. We begin with the National Assembly, where the Senate and the House of Representatives on Thursday passed the 2.17 trillion naira 2023 supplementary appropriation bill after third reading. Before the passage of the bill, the Senate adopted the report of the harmonized sittings of both chambers on the 2023 supplementary appropriation bill, as submitted by Chairman of the Appropriations Committee, Mr. Solomon Olamilekan Adeola, APC, Ogun West. The bill expeditiously scaled readings in both upper and lower chambers, as lawmakers said it is for the benefit of the country. President Bola Tinubu had written the National Assembly seeking the approval of a sum of 2.17 trillion naira as 2023 supplementary budget to address labor wage adjustments, security, and more. The president had also sent the 2024-2026 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper to both chambers of the National Assembly.
Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation of the total sum of 2,796,791,286,033 naira, only, of which 18 billion naira only is for statutory transfers, 1,033,471,162,373 naira is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 1,125,320,123 million, 1,320,323,123,660 million naira only is for contributions to the Development Fund for capital expenditure for the year ending on the 31st day of December 2023. The bill is read for the third time and passed.
While the House of Representatives has removed the 5 billion naira presidential yacht from the 2023 supplementary budget, the chairperson of the House Committee on Appropriation, Abubakar Bichi APC Kano, announced this on Thursday after the passage of a 2.17 trillion naira supplementary budget by the House. Speaking to reporters, Honorable Bichi stated that the committee had eliminated the item and transferred the funds to the Student Loan Division, totaling 10 billion naira. It was earlier reported that the presidency's media aide revealed that the president didn't want the yacht and that it was for the Navy.
Budget from 456 to 546 billion 209,099,671. So then police formation and command will give them 50 billion. While the FCT, they have about 100 billion naira. You know, FCT is very important because we want to make sure FCT can compete with any city in the world. That's why we have decided to give them 100 billion naira. While Office of the National Security, we know how important that office is. Initially, the initial budget was 27 billion, but currently we have increased their budget to 50 billion naira. While the State House, the initial budget was 28, and we still maintain that figure as 28 billion naira as well. Ministry of Agri, we know how important that ministry is. You're talking about the food security, and of course, it's very critical and important to our people across the nation. We have maintained the initial figure of 200 billion naira as well. While Ministry of Housing, you know, we have a serious housing deficit in this country, and the Mr. President agenda, he wants to build as much as he can. So we have approved 100 billion naira for Ministry of Housing, and that's what he actually did. Service whiteboard initially was 615 billion, but currently we reduced it from 615 to 515 billion naira as well. And for INEC, you know, initially their request was 18 billion naira. Yesterday we had an engagement with the INEC chairman, as you're all aware, and he has convinced us about his submissions. We have maintained the 18 billion naira as well. So far we have approved the sum of 2,476,791,286,033 naira only. So this is what we did today, and we'll continue to do as much as we can to support our Nigeria, to support the government, so that our people can see the important for this democracy.
Moving on from the budget, the Senate today confirmed the remaining 3 resident electoral commissioners for the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, nominated by President Bola Tinubu. The nominees are Dr. Bumi Omoseyidemi from Lagos State, Dr. Anugbum Onoa from Rivers State, and Mr. Ismaila Kaura Moi from Zamfara State. The trio were not present when the other 7 nominees were confirmed on Wednesday. The 7 nominees confirmed on Wednesday are Etekamba Umoren, Akwa Ibom State, Isha Eyimekne from Edo, Arista Oluwatoyin Babalola Ekiti, Abubakar Ahmed Gombe, Sheikh Wahab Kwara, Aminu Idris Nasarawa, and Mohammed Abubakar Sadiq Niger. The President had last week approved the appointment of 10 new recs for INEC for a 5-year term each. Earlier, the Senate sworn in Senator-elect for Kogi Central Senatorial District, Barrister Natasha Akpoti Uduaghan, as a member of the 10th Senate. This followed a presentation with certificate of return by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, as a duly elected senator for Kogi Central. Ms. Akpoti Uduaghan, who is elected on the platform of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, becomes the first female senator from Kogi State. Earlier on Tuesday, the Court of Appeal, Abuja Division, upheld Senator Akpoti Uduaghan as the duly elected candidate in the Kogi Central Senatorial District election held in February. The court dismissed the appeal filed by Abubakar Oere of the All Progressives Congress, APC, for lacking in merit.
Natasha Akpoti Uduaghan.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
That I will be faithful.
That I will be faithful.
And bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
And bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
That as a member of the Senate.
That as a member of the Senate.
I will perform my functions honestly.
I will perform my functions honestly.
To the best of my ability.
To the best of my ability.
Faithfully in accordance with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Faithfully in accordance with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
And the law.
And the law.
And the rules of the Senate.
And the rules of the Senate.
And always in the interest of the sovereignty.
And always in the interest of the sovereignty.
Integrity.
Integrity.
Solidarity.
Solidarity.
Well-being.
Well-being.
And prosperity of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
And prosperity of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
That I will strive to preserve.
That I will strive to preserve.
The fundamental objectives.
The fundamental objectives.
And directive principles of state policy.
And directive principles of state policy.
Contained in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Contained in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
And that I will preserve.
And that I will preserve.
Protect.
And
defend the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
And defend the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
And that I will abide by the Code of Conduct conduct
and that I will abide by the code of conduct
contained in the 5th schedule
contained in the 5th schedule
of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I,
Natasha Akpoti Uduaha,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will be faithful
that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria,
and bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria,
and that I will preserve,
and that I will preserve, protect,
and defend the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
and defend the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
So help me God.
So help me God.
To politics, the House of Representatives has asked President Bola Tinubu to call political parties in Bayelsa State to order ahead of the November 11 governorship election. This is sequel to a motion of urgent public importance raised by Honorable Marie Enemi Efe, drawing the House's attention to possible unrest in the state in the build-up to the election. He wants the National Security Advisor to spring into action to guarantee a peaceful election in the state. A viral video of a deputy governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, inciting violence in the forthcoming election had sparked reactions from Nigerians, and this is a concern for lawmakers. While following the statement of a chief of army staff expressing worry over classified documents ending up in the public space, the House of Representatives is calling for forensic storage of security information. In the meantime, President Bola Tinubu has handed the ruling All Progressives Congress APC flags over to 3 governorship candidates of the party ahead of this month's elections in Kogi, Imo, and Bayelsa State. Those under the flags are Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo, who is running for a second term, Timipre Silva for Bayelsa, and Usman Ododo for Kogi State. The event, which was held inside the banquet hall of a state house, had the national chairman of APC, Abdullahi Ganduje, and other members of the party's National Working Committee, NWC, among others, as dignitaries. Similarly, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has disclosed that 40 polling units in Imo and Bayelsa State are without registered voters. This is as the governorship election in both states, as well as Kogi State, scheduled for November 11, is fast approaching. According to a statement by the INEC National Commissioner and Chairman for Information and Voter Education Committee, Sam Olumekun, 2 of the polling units are from Bayelsa State, while 38 are from Imo State. The Commission also published collected and uncollected permanent voters cards, PVCs, on polling unit basis in Bayelsa, Imo, and Kogi State. The breakdown for the 3 states indicates that out of 1,056,862 registered voters in Bayelsa State, 1,017,613 have collected their PVCs and 39,249 are uncollected. In Imo State, the number of registered voters is 2,419,922, out of which 2,318,919 have collected their PVCs, while in Kogi State, out of 1,932,654 registered voters, 1,833,160 have collected their PVCs. For legal matters, the State and National Assembly Appeal Court sitting at the Court of Appeal in Lagos today upheld the election of Jesse Okejo Onuakalusi of the Labour Party as a duly elected House of Representatives member for constituency LL Oshodi Solo, Lagos. The court, in a unanimous decision, dismissed the appeal lodged by the All Progressives Congress APC candidate Ganiyu Johnson. The 3-member panel held that all the issues raised by Mr. Johnson were pre-election matters which the court lacked jurisdiction to entertain. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, declared the LP candidate as the winner after he polled 29,386 votes to defeat Johnson, who garnered 16,650 votes in the election. In another update, the Court of Appeal Abuja has upheld the election of Joshua Ghana of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, for Lavu Mokwa Edati Federal Constituency, Niger State, in the House of Representatives. The appellate court set aside an earlier judgment of the National and State Houses of Assembly Election Petitions Tribunal delivered on September 11, which nullified Mr. Ghana's election. The tribunal had in its judgment voided the certificate of return issued to him by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and other supplementary elections in the constituency. However, in a unanimous decision today, a three-member panel of the Court of Appeal held that the tribunal was wrong to have ruled in favor of the petitions of Abdullahi Usman Batamagi and the All Progressives Congress, APC. The appellate court held that Mr. Batamagi and the APC did not comply with the mandatory provisions of paragraph 4, subparagraph 5 of the first schedule to the Electoral Act 2022 when they failed to file their witness written statement on oath within the time stipulated for filing the petition. Away from legal matters, in Osun, Governor Ademola Adeleke has commended the positive response of the new leadership of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, over the arrest of some students of Obafemi Awolowo University. The governor gave the commendation in a statement by spokesperson Olawale Rashid while calling for expedited due process in the handling of the matter. It described as commendable the immediate amendment of the Commission's operational code by its leadership, which prohibits night sting operations, with emphasis on strict observance of suspects' human rights. Also noted as a major turning point, the governor called on the Commission to ensure strict compliance with the new regulations. The anti-graft agency arrested the students in a midnight raid on hostels outside the campus. However, 58 of the 69 students arrested were later released. Following the incident, the new chairman of the EFCC, Ola Olukoyede, directed that sting operations at night time be stopped in all the commands of the Commission. As the world celebrates International Day to End Impunity for Crimes Against Journalists, politicians have been urged to stop seeing the press as their enemies. It comes as UNESCO expressed their concern that impunity damages all societies by covering up serious human rights abuses, corruption, and crime. Joseph Atewe completes the report.
According to the press tracker, the first quarter of 2023 tracked and verified 45 cases of harassment and infringement suffered by journalists in Nigeria, fueling troubling concerns about press freedom and human rights in Africa's largest democracy. The first quarter of 2023 press attack number marked an alarming increase as it surpassed the total for the whole of 2022 when 37 cases were reported, with 2 journalists losing their lives in the process of discharging their duties. The report also states that physical attacks were the most common, accounting for 47% of the incidents, followed by denial of access 13% and equipment damage and seizure 7%. You would also recall that in May 2022, a journalist who works for the Nation newspaper, Toba Adedeji, was allegedly shot on his leg by a police officer as he covered the protest at the Olaya axis in Osogbo. While explaining to us what really happened, Mr. Adedeji said it has become very difficult for him to discharge his duties in peace because he's scared of the unknown.
That was May 31st, 2022. I went to cover a protest at Olaya, Popular Junction, Olaya, and during the protest, some youth were protesting against killings of police. Police killed one of their family members, and they were protesting. I think they were about 15 or 16. Then we were at the spot when they were protesting, when policemen just suddenly arrived at the scene and they started shooting sporadically. When I was about running to safety at the scene, one of the bullets hit me on my thigh, and the rest now is history. But ever since that time that I witnessed the shooting of the police during my job, I have been living in fear.
As we celebrate International Day to End Impunity for Crimes Against Journalists, with a theme, the violence against journalists, the integrity of elections, and the role. The chairman, Nigerian Union of Journalists, NUJ, Osun State Chapter, Mr. Wasiu Ajadosu, disclosed that politicians are one of the biggest problems as they see journalists as their enemies. He called on politicians to see journalists as the fourth realm of the government, hence, respect and allow them do their job in peace without any interference.
Journalism, like other professions, has its own hazard. But despite the fact that there's an hazard, you see that there's a conspiracy theory against journalism practice, especially by the political class. They more often they see journalists as an enemy. So, and when you see somebody as enemy, there's a potential that you always want to fight such a person. And that's why, in the course of performing our profession, some of our colleagues were brutalized, some are whipped, some are even killed. And, you know, the implication of this is that it will be causing a kind of retardation for the profession. We suffer a lot of impunity. Impunity in terms of lack of living wage for practicing journalists.
Speaking further, the NUJ chairman stated that very soon, all journalists in the state will have a life insurance which will back them up even after death. He also called on all media houses to ensure their journalists are one of the best paid in the country, as this will help curb some of the trouble an average journalist face on a daily basis.
So that's why within the union, we believe that there's a need for every journalist to have an insurance cover. That with insurance cover, because every journalist, like any other Nigerian, has a family. They have a dependent, they have children, have wives, have parents that are looking on to them that they will better their life. And because of their profession, they are being killed. There should be an insurance cover. And that has been the agitation of NUJ, that every members of the union should register for the union insurance, so that in case of any emergency, the insurance will cover you and they will be able to take care of the children and everything. But primarily and fundamentally, why should we engage in impunity, brutalization against journalists? It's just performing his responsibility like any other profession.
It must be stated that Nigeria must check what is appearing to be a dangerous trend of rising danger for journalists, most especially in the election years. Journalism is not a crime. We must remember that it is a constitutional-backed enterprise to uphold the accountability and responsibility of the power holders to the people. Joseph Atewe, Western Spring Television News.
You're watching News at 7 on Western Spring Television. Still to come, Labour leader says NLC president responding to treatment after Imo attack. We'll bring you more on this when we return.
Ahmadu Bello, a Prince Royal, was born 6th of December 1910 at Rabba Village, Sokoto, northwestern Nigeria. His father was a district head and heir apparent to the Sultanate throne from the house of Usmanu Danfodio, a religious and social reformer who brought the Habib dynasty under the Fulani Caliphate in the beginning of the 19th century. Ahmadu Bello raised the bar of political consciousness in participation when, in 1944, he engineered the establishment of the Northern People's Congress (NPC) as the first political party in northern Nigeria and the rallying point for politicians in the region before independence. History will not forget Ahmadu Bello for his charisma and political sagacity, which provided easy passage for his kinsmen to assume political and administrative positions in Nigeria's post-independence era. The distinguished elder statesman and Sardauna of Sokoto has his face on his country's 200 naira currency as a mark of honor to one of the architects of Nigeria's independence. Western Spring Television identifies Ahmadu Bello as a watershed character in history.
Illegal bushmeat is not cool, but it's on sale in our cities, risking extinction and our health. And many of our iconic wild animals are threatened. So please be cool and say no to illegal bushmeat. And let's make Nigeria better for wildlife and safer for us all. Keep them wild, keep us safe.
Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela was an anti-apartheid activist who gave his all for the elimination of what has been described as the world's most vicious rule of the unjust and man's inhumanity against man. He was born July 18, 1918 in Mvezo, South Africa. Educated and trained as a successful legal practitioner, he took up the gauntlet of a human activist against segregation by the minority white suprematists in South Africa. At the climax of his trial for treason, orchestrated by the minority South African government, the great crusader for democratic equality was prepared to pay the supreme sacrifice to establish majority rule in his native land. He told white jurists that if achieving freedom for his people was worth his life, he was prepared to die. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in Robben Island, described as the most notorious prison in the world. It was from this same prison that he came out as a free man to assume office as South Africa's first black president in 1994. Western Spring Television identifies Nelson Mandela as a watershed character in history.
Welcome back. This is 2 News at 7 on Western Spring Television. A reminder of our headlines. National Assembly passes the 2.17 trillion naira 2023 supplementary appropriation bill. President Tinubu presents APC flags to Governor Hope Uzodinma, Bayelsa's Timbre Silva, and Usman Ododo. Governor Adeleke commends EFCC's positive response to the arrest of some OAU students. On the foreign scene, Israeli Prime Minister calls on Palestinian civilians to leave north of Gaza. The General Secretary of the Trade Union Congress, TUC, Nu Toro, has provided an update on the condition of the President of the Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, Joe Ajaero, following his arrest in Imo State on Wednesday. According to media reports yesterday, Mr. Ajaero was arrested in Owerri, the capital of Imo State, during protests by workers in the state. But the State Police Command had said Mr. Ajaero was taken into custody for his protection, but the NLC said he was brutalized after his arrest. A viral video later showed Ajaero with visible injuries on his face as he was being transported to a hospital in Owerri after his release from detention. Toro said while giving an update in a news chat today that the NLC leader and the chairperson of the region, an affiliate of the TUC, who was also attacked, are now responding well to treatment. He explained that the attack was a response to a memorandum signed by the NLC, TUC, and the Imo State government on May 7. He further said that the reason for the protest was that the state government, under the leadership of Senator Hope Uzodinma, has refused to honor this memorandum signed. For security matters, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 general elections, Peter Obi, has said the discovery of dead bodies in Abia State showed the level of insecurity in Nigeria. Mr. Obi, in a post on the social media platform X on Thursday, said it unearths how insecurity has continued to ravage many parts of the country, taking innocent lives and killing the economy. The Abia State government had discovered over 50 decomposing bodies, over 20 headless bodies, and countless human skeletons all around Lokpanta Cattle Market in the Umuneochi local government area of the state. Governor Alex Oti had revealed the grim finding during his monthly media chat at Government House, Umuahia, on Monday. In his reaction, the former Anambra governor said the finding further underscored the alarming level of insecurity within the country. He further praised the Governor Oti for taking a bold stance against the prevailing insecurity issues in the state. Elsewhere, operatives of the Lagos State Traffic Management Authority today rescued some passengers after a container-laden truck rammed into a commercial bus at the outer marina area of the state. It was learned that the victims sustained varying degrees of injuries in the accident, which occurred at about 7 a.m. Last Director, Public Affairs and Enlightenment Department, Adebayo Taufik, who confirmed the incident in a statement, said the accident occurred as a result of overspeeding, which led to a brake failure. He said immediately the accident happened, the agency's personnel who were along the axis quickly moved to the scene to rescue the occupants of a trapped commercial bus. With the support of sympathetic road users, Taufik confirmed that policemen from the Lion building led by the divisional crime officer provided security backup while the rescue operations lasted. Now to the foreign scene, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, speaking to soldiers today, again called on Palestinian civilians to leave the north of Gaza, an appeal humanitarian groups have repeatedly said is not realistic. Netanyahu said nothing will stop the Israeli army, calling on the uninvolved to get out now and move south. He said that the Israeli army will not stop in its activity to eliminate Hamas terrorists, and they will advance and win with God's help and the help of its historic warriors. Temitope Ajijola Olua Ola has more on the conflict.
The Israeli military said it's killed dozens of Hamas fighters, having earlier said its troops had broken through the group's defense lines. U.S. President Joe Biden called for a humanitarian pause during a campaign rally after a woman interrupted him mid-speech, demanding a ceasefire in Gaza.
We've all seen the devastating images from Gaza. Palestinian children crying out for lost parents, parents reasoning and writing their children's names on their hands and legs to be identified if the worst happens. It's okay. Kids are allowed to do that with me. Okay? Don't worry about it, all right?
The Rafah border crossing until today had only been opened to allow humanitarian aid for Palestinians into Gaza. Some people who went to the Rafah crossing yesterday were unaware that if their names were not on the list, they would not be allowed to enter Egypt. Leaving Gaza is critical, especially for those who need medical care, as hospitals are running out of supplies and fighting continues. More than 400 foreign passport holders and injured Palestinians have been allowed to leave Gaza for the first time in more than 3 weeks, with British and U.S. citizens among them. Yoni Asher says hell is the only way to describe how he feels whenever he sees a 5-second TikTok video of his wife Doron and their 2 young daughters held hostage by Hamas, saying children need to be off limits.
I want to remember the sound of their voice, the smell of their hair, but it's hard. I know that I have to be strong for them. I can't look at a video of them, not even one. I know that many videos were published by us, me and my family and friends who are helping me. I didn't watch single one.
Yoni's wife and daughters were among hostages taken from southern Israel near the border with Gaza last 7 October. The sisters are believed to be among the youngest of the captives. Pope Francis has said that a 2-state solution is the wise way to solve the conflict. Francis said there had to be 2 well-defined states, with Jerusalem given special status. He further said an escalation of the violence would mean the end of so many things and so many lives. Francis said he spoke every day by phone to priests and nuns running a parish in Gaza, where 560 people were taking shelter, mostly Christians and some Muslims. The son of a doctor trapped in Gaza is still desperately hoping that his father will be evacuated. His father, Abdul Qadir, is a transplant surgeon in Liverpool who has done kidney transplants in Gaza for the past 10 years, working with a charity run by the World Health Organization. He arrived in Gaza on 6 October, the day before the Hamas attack on Israel, and has been stuck there ever since. And despite rising hope that he might leave for Egypt via the Rafah crossing on Thursday, after being placed on a list, it did not happen. It was quite difficult, Hamid said. Israel's military has confirmed that 1 more of its soldiers had been killed in fighting in northern Gaza. This brings the number of Israeli soldiers killed since ground operations in Gaza were expanded last Friday to 17. Thai officials said they have talked directly with Hamas to secure the release of their nationals who were taken hostage by Hamas. The head of the Thai negotiation mission, former MP Arifin Otarazan, said he met with Hamas representatives in Tehran on 26 October, where he received assurances that the Thai hostages will be released at the right time. The IDF said Hamas fired anti-tank missiles, detonated explosives, and hurled grenades at Israeli forces. Meanwhile, the IDF said it responded with artillery fire, tank fire, an aerial strike from a helicopter, and a missile strike from a Navy boat. The IDF also reported a ground encounter between its troops and Hamas. Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant says the Israeli military has dropped more than 10,000 munitions on Gaza City alone since the start of the current conflict and is progressing towards its goal of eliminating Hamas. More than 20,000 wounded people are still trapped in the Gaza Strip, according to Doctors Without Borders. Egyptian officials said 335 foreigners or dual nationals, plus 76 seriously wounded and sick people, were brought across the Rafah crossing for medical treatment on Wednesday. A news agency reported that ambulances were seen taking wounded evacuees to Egyptian field hospitals. Temitope Achijola Oluwaola, Western Spring Television News.
In the United Kingdom, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak today said world leaders have a responsibility to address the risk of artificial intelligence a day after he secured China's backing for an international effort to manage the risks of the technology. Some tech and political leaders have warned the rapid development of AI poses an existential threat, if not controlled, sparking a race by governments and institutions to design safeguards and regulation. Sunak led talks on the final day on Thursday of an inaugural AI Safety Summit at Bletchley Park, home of Britain's World War II code breakers. He stated that world leaders have a responsibility to address dangers ranging from social harm and disinformation to extreme risks from AI. Mr. Sunak said he wanted them to look back at this moment in 5 years and know that they made the right choices to enhance all the benefits of AI in a way that will be safe for the communities, but deliver enormous potential as well.
I truly believe there is nothing in our foreseeable future that will be more transformative for our economies, our societies, and all our lives than the development of technologies like artificial intelligence. But as with every wave of new technology, it also brings new fears and dangers. So no matter how difficult it may be, it is the right and responsible long-term decision for leaders to address them. That is why I called this summit, and I want to pay tribute to everyone who has joined us and the spirit in which they have done so. For the first time ever, we have brought together CEOs of world-leading AI companies, with countries most advanced in using it, and representatives from across academia and civil society. And while this was only the beginning of the conversation, I believe the achievements of this summit will tip the balance in favor of humanity, because they show that we have both the political will and the capability to control this technology and secure its benefits for the long term. And we've achieved this in 4 specific ways. Until this week, the world did not even have a shared understanding of the risks. So our first step was to have open and inclusive conversation to seek that shared understanding. We analysed the latest available evidence on everything from social harms like bias and misinformation to the risk of misuse by bad actors through to the most extreme risks of even losing control of AI completely. And yesterday, we agreed and published the first ever international statement about the nature of all those risks. It was signed by every single nation represented at this summit, covering all continents across the globe, and including the United States.
While in the U.S., Donald Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., on Thursday acknowledged in court that he had signed financial documents for the family company that a New York judge has ruled were fraudulent, but sought to pin the blame on others who worked on them. In his second day of testimony, Donald Jr. said he relied on accountants within the Trump organization and outside firm measures to ensure that financial estimates of trophy properties and other assets were accurate. He, speaking on the witness stand, said they had more information and details on all of this than he would have. Those documents are at the heart of a New York civil fraud trial that threatens to topple the real estate empire that built Trump's reputation as a business mogul before he entered politics. His testimony concluded shortly before lunch when his brother, Eric Trump, followed him on the witness stand. The two brothers took control of a Trump organization in 2017 when their father assumed the presidency. In Africa, Zambia's government has withdrawn retirement benefits and privileges from former President Edgar Lungu following his decision to return to active politics. Mr. Lungu lost the presidency to Hakainde Hichilema in 2021, after which he announced his retirement. After 6 years in office, he left the country facing serious economic issues as Africa's most indebted nation. His return to politics sets the stage for a keenly contested 2026 presidential race. The former president has already been notified about the immediate withdrawal of his retirement benefits and privileges, according to government spokesman Cornelius Mwetwa. He said it was clearly stated in the law that former presidents who returned to politics would lose their benefits. As a retired president, Mr. Lungu was entitled to 3 security officers, a diplomatic passport, 3 state cars, a furnished house, medical insurance, and funeral expenses on his death. He also enjoyed immunity from prosecution. Moving over to Asia, national flags flew at half-mast across China on Thursday as the country puts its former premier, Li Keqiang, to rest. Mr. Li, whose body was moved to Beijing from Shanghai, where he had died of a heart attack on the 27th of October, was cremated. Pictures show crowds gathered along the streets as a convoy said to be carrying his body drove past. Muted state coverage of his funeral stands in contrast to the outpouring of sorrow among ordinary Chinese. 68-year-old Li was once tipped to be China's future leader, but was overtaken and then swiftly sidelined by Xi Jinping, who has centralized power in his own hands during his more than 10 years at the helm. Li's funeral was held at the Babaoshan Revolutionary Cemetery, where his body lay on a bed of flowers and was covered with the Communist Party's flag. Mr. Xi and his wife, Peng Liyuan, were in attendance, along with new Premier Li Keqiang and other members of a Politburo Standing Committee. Still ahead, Minister of Power says surging gas prices has a profound impact on the nation's power generation. We'll have on these and other business stories after this break. Please do stay with us.
Born Jeremiah Oyeni Obafemi on March 6, 1905, Obafemi Awolowo was a prime architect of Nigeria's independence and most consummate advocate of free education and social welfare in Africa's most populous nation. Erudite politician, thinker and philosopher, Awo was fondly addressed by associates and political colleagues, brought his unique attributes to bear on governance in the defunct Western region. He administered as leader of government business and the premier between 1955 and 1958. Obafemi Awolowo's premiership witnessed pioneering in multi-sectoral policy initiatives and execution. The Western region under his administration paraded several enviable records. First television station in Africa, first real estate in Nigeria, first high-rise building in Nigeria, first modern sports stadium in Nigeria, first agricultural settlement in Nigeria, first modern civil service secretariat in Nigeria, and first industrial estate in Nigeria. His face is on 100 naira denomination as a mark of honor for his distinguished services to his country. Western Spring Television identifies Obafemi Awolowo as a major character in history.
You're And welcome back. And now to business. The Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, said the surge in gas prices has a profound impact on the nation's power generation subsector. He said this today in Abuja at the African Natural Resource and Energy Investment Summit, AFNIS 2023. He said some of the key consequences include increased cost of production, reduced reliability, investment challenges, and environmental concerns when power companies resort to using cheaper but more polluting fuels. Mr. Adelabu said the surge affects not only the economy, but also the daily lives of every Nigerian citizen. The Senate on Thursday resolved to investigate the immediate and remote causes of a dwindling revenue derivable from solid minerals development in the country. It also sought to ascertain the extent and impact of illegal mining activities and the extent of the complicity of both local and expatriate industry players. It also resolved to review other Bureau of Public Enterprises, BP privatization or commercialization programs of all mining and mineral resources related programs from 1999 to date. This followed a motion moved by Senator Osita Ngu from Enugu West. It has mandated its Committee on Solid Minerals Development to report back its investigation within 3 weeks.
President and distinguished colleagues, thank you for this opportunity to move this very important motion. And I'd like to move it with all sense of responsibility and dedication to our dear country, Nigeria. This motion is to comprehensively review the input and output values of the Nigerian mining industry in light of its central role to economic diversification, foreign exchange earnings, and social inclusion. The Senate notes that virtually all economic development programs and fiscal documents ranging from the Vision 2020 reports, the National Economic Empowerment Development Strategy, NEETS, the 30-year Infrastructure Master Plan Development Program, and the current midterm National Development Plans all identify the Nigerian mining sector as central to economic diversification and social inclusion. Aware that the several decades of policy incoherence and weak institutional disalignment, the economic potential of this sector to the gross domestic product of the economy has remained dismal, derivable from solid mineral development in the country, of illegal mining activities, and the extent of complicity of both local and expatriate industry players. Review all the BP privatization or commercialization programs of all mining and mineral resources related programs from 1999 to date. I so move, Mr. President.
The Bank of England held interest rates at 15-year highs of 5.25% at its latest meeting on Thursday, the second straight month of steady rates after 14 back-to-back hikes. Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey said the bank would keep monetary policy restrictive for long enough to squeeze inflation out of the system, but it would be careful not to maintain that strategy for too long. Speaking at the news conference after the BOE held interest rates, he said monetary policy is currently restrictive in the sense that if the stance is maintained for long enough, inflation will be squeezed out of the system. However, once that the monetary policy should not be kept restrictive for excessively long.
Throughout the forecast we have presented today. Chart 6 shows the MPC's projection for growth in the UK economy, conditional on market interest rates. GDP is projected to remain broadly flat through 2024. Growth then recovers over the second half of the forecast period. It remains below historical averages, however, reflecting both restrictive monetary policy and subdued potential supply growth. On balance, the margin of excess demand has diminished over recent quarters, and we expect an increasing degree of economic slack to emerge from the start of next year.
And after some sports stories, Crystal Palace manager Roy Hodgson says the club are optimistic of agreeing a new contract with England forward Eberechi Eze. Eze, 25, has made 102 appearances for Palace since he joined from QPR on a 5-year contract in August 2020 and was the club's top scorer last season. He made his England debut as a substitute in a 4-0 win over Malta in June following his first club call. Hodgson, speaking ahead of his side's weekend clash against Burnley, said he believes the club are working very hard with the injured forward. Eze has been absent since sustaining a hamstring injury in the win against Manchester United at the start of October. The former England manager also apologized to 3 academy players for the comments made towards them after the club's 2-1 defeat to Tottenham.
Really, I don't mean. I mean, we have great faith in all of our young players. We think that they are going to be extremely good, and they're making very good progress as well.
You made that point.
I did make that point. I think it's a bit unfair to expect more of them, as I'm suggesting I did expect on that evening. That's very unfair for me and wrong of me. And I actually spoken to the 3 of them and explained that and apologised for actually doing so. But bottom line is that without Elise, without Eberechi Eze, and without 1 or 2 other senior players in the department, the midfield and the attack, we are reliant upon asking 19-year-olds. And don't forget, in the case of Francia and David Ozo in particular, they've hardly played any senior football. I mean, he had a few games in Brazil before he came to see us, Mateus, but then he's only played half a game against Monaco. So to suggest he's going to go on.
To tennis, Italian 4th seed Jannik Sinner has withdrawn from the Paris Masters with fatigue. Sinner's second-round match against American Mackenzie McDonald did not start until after midnight and finished at 2:37 local time on Thursday. The 22-year-old was scheduled to play Australian Alex de Minaur in the 3rd round later today. But in a post on X, Sinner said he was sorry to announce that he was withdrawing from today's match in Bercy. Sinner battled back from losing a first-set tiebreak to beat McDonald 6-7, 7-5, 6-love in Paris. And that's all these are. But before we go, here is a recap of our major stories. The Senate and the House of Representatives on Thursday passed the 2.17 trillion naira 2023 supplementary appropriation bill after 3rd reading. President Bola Tinubu has ended ruling All Progressives Congress APC flags or the 3 governorship candidates of the party ahead of this month's elections in Kogi, Imo, and Bayelsa states. Governor Ademola Adeleke of Osun State has commended the positive response of the new leadership of Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, over the arrest of some students of Obafemi Awolowo University. On the foreign scene, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, speaking to soldiers today, again called on Palestinian civilians to leave the North Gaza, an appeal humanitarian groups have repeatedly said is not realistic. Please do follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and X at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. I am OPEYEMI ONI. Thanks for watching.
Samuel Laduke Akintola was a frontal figure in the historical